Welcome, everybody. This is another episode of Writing Daily where we talk about writing daily and all of the pieces and components that it takes to write daily. Whether you are writing for your grandmother, a note to her, a birthday card, finishing your great American novel, putting yourself out there as a working writer, or one of the dozens of other things that we end up doing every single day to write more and write better. Today, I'm going to talk about an interview that just happened. It was actually between myself and Arlene Battishill. I'm not even sure if I pronounced that right, but she has a great show. Welcome, Joe. Thanks for being here. And so it's kind of an interesting thing that usually I'm used to interviewing people, and it's sort of an easy thing because what I end up doing is somebody comes on and I let them talk, and that's the end of it. Maybe I'll interject something, maybe I won't. Sora, good to see you. Oscar, thank you for joining. And so the interview that I conducted today, oh, and by the way, if you like what I'm doing, please hit the like button or the wow button or ask a question. I am here to talk, writing, anything you've got going, let's get it going. But so I'm interviewed today and I'm not used to it. And all of a sudden I realize we're talking and I'm telling a story, and I realize that I am completely not prepared. Now, for the record, I don't even know what that actually even means. I am prepared to the extent that I know who I am and that I'm talking about things that I know about, which are things that pertain to me. And so there's this awkwardness, and I'm saying all this because there is a point where you are going to be wanting to get interviewed. Obviously, to promote yourself, you have to be interviewed. There's no two ways about it. Matter of fact, you have to dive into it with both feet as much as possible. And that's kind of what I have, I've done. So I accept this interview. I'm grateful for Arlene for her time and her patience and her charm. She's actually a really wonderful interviewer. But, I think I've been interviewed a great many times before, but I've never been interviewed about my book. And so I suppose I was prepared to discuss it, but I didn't know actually what that meant. When I sat down, it was like this sense of I am going to be talking about these canned ideas that I had in my head of what discussing a book is all about. And the truth of the matter is really what I was supposed to do. And by the way, welcome, Claire, and welcome, Alan. Thanks for being here and the thumbs up. It's much appreciated. And so when I was discussing it, I suppose I had these plans in my head of where this interview would go. I mean, it's an hour-long interview, and for the most part, a lot of the interviews I've done are kind of short. Like when my wife and I were on NBC, it was just like, here's this 2-minute segment, spit it all out, and there's a back and forth, and it's very, very fast. An hour-long conversation with somebody is that. It's an hour-long conversation. And so my job is to kind of just, whatever it is that she wants to talk about is the direction we go. Because the truth of the matter is, if the situation was reversed, I would be sort of representing you and trying to make sure that the person talking would be delivering you information that would be useful, interesting, inspiring, exciting, whatever it may be, that at the end of it, you're going to get some sort of a sense of value. So even though I was not prepared, I was abundantly prepared because I was talking about the things that she was asking about. And she was just asking about me. How easy is that? And welcome, Randy. Thanks for being here. And so I guess the idea here is that in putting yourself out there, you have to be willing to go with whatever the flow of the interview is going to be going with. Now, that said, it was easy because there wasn't anything that was too difficult or too challenging from the standpoint of okay, so how did you write your book? I got to talk about that. What were the things that inspired you to write it? We talked about that. And then she went deeper layers. I think probably what was happening for me from within the first couple of minutes is that I had this plan out in my brain of what being interviewed looks like and sounds like. And that immediately was dispelled, because she's curious and wasn't necessarily looking for these kind of surface level responses that I guess, and this is true of writing. Frequently when I'm writing something and it's like, oop, that's the answer. It's dead on. I'm going to write about this dead on subject that I'm sure everybody's thinking about. The truth of the matter is, most of my first ideas are the first things that end up getting deleted. And I think this is true. This is true for me as an interviewer, but it's also true of me as somebody who's being interviewed. That interviewer is curious. So they're automatically going to deeper levels than the ones that I was anticipating. Hey, Lorelei, good to see you. And as always, yes, please like and ask questions if you're in the mood for it. And so this interview was happening in front of me, and it's almost like a postmodern thing that's happening. One, I'm present for the interview, and at the same time, I'm conscious of the fact that what's happening was not what I was being planned or expecting from the interviewer. I was expecting these sort of like softball questions that were really easy, and that I was sort of like emotionally, spiritually prepared for. And by the way, the interview went great. I was really happy with it. And she went to all of these different levels, and all of those different levels were things that I was enjoying, just not expecting. So I guess if there was one thing that if you're ever going to be interviewed as a writer, is that you just have to let go whatever your preconceived notions might be about what your interview is supposed to look like or sound like, because we're not robots. The interviewer's not a robot. It was interesting. There was points where you could just kind of tell that I would say something that was a little bit off topic, and she was like, yeah, let's go there. Let's have that conversation. And so she would start talking about that. And so I found myself talking about elements of my book that I really was never expecting to get into, which was a lot of fun. And I think it's what made it a really good interview. So the interview itself with myself and Arlene is not going to be out for probably another couple of weeks. She has some editing to do and some normal promotional things to take care of. But I'm going to look forward to seeing what your guys' response is to it, because we start really talking about some deeper stuff. So anyway, Susan, thank you so much for joining me. And as always, everybody, feel free to ask questions, whether you're watching me live or in the internets. I'm looking forward to talking about all the stuff we're going to do for writing together. So this was Writing Daily. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, I'm going to be back here tomorrow talking about my experience as a writer and talking about all kinds of nitty-gritty fun things. Thanks for being here, and we'll talk to you soon.